Ilara Voss stood in the middle of the bonding hall, wearing a dress her mother had saved for months to buy. The room smelled of cedar wood and warm candles. Everyone was watching her. She was waiting for the man who was supposed to become her mate, the man the whole pack called their Alpha King. His name was Kael Draven. He was tall, strong, and calm in a way that made people listen before he even spoke. Today, he was supposed to complete the bonding ceremony with Ilara. Instead, he looked at her for a long moment, and then he said words that changed her whole life. "I reject this bond." The hall went silent. No one gasped. No one whispered. 300 people simply looked away, as if they all agreed not to see what had just happened. Ilara felt her face grow hot, but she did not cry. She would not give him that. She smoothed the front of her dress with both hands, trying to keep herself steady. Her heart was pounding, but her face stayed calm. She turned around and walked out of the hall without saying a single word. That night, she packed a small bag. She did not wake her aunt to say goodbye. She did not tell anyone where she was going. She simply walked out of the packlands before the sun came up, carrying only her clothes, a little money, and a heart full of anger and hurt. 4 years passed. Ilara built a new life far away, in a small town 2 territories north of Ashwood. She found work at a local clinic, helping sick and injured people. No one there knew she was an Omega, who had once stood in front of an entire pack and been rejected by their king. No one asked questions about her past, and she liked it that way. 6 months after she left Ashwood, she gave birth to twins. She named them Rowan and Wren. They were curious, lively children, always running around and asking questions. As they grew older, people sometimes said the twins had her stubborn chin, but they also had striking green eyes that did not belong to her at all. Ilara noticed this every single day, but she never spoke about it. She raised her children with quiet strength. She taught them how to be brave, how to stand tall, and how to trust their instincts. She never mentioned their father. As far as she was concerned, he had made his choice the day he stood in front of everyone and rejected her. She was not going to let him hurt her again. Life was not always easy, but it was peaceful. Ilara worked hard, and her children were happy. She thought she had left her old life behind for good. But fate, it seemed, was not finished with her yet. One afternoon, when the twins were 3 years old, a terrible storm destroyed the only bridge connecting their town to the rest of the region. The clinic where Ilara worked needed medical supplies urgently, and the only safe route left was through Ashwood territory, the very land she had run from 4 years earlier. Ilara stood at the border checkpoint with Rowan on one hip and Wren on the other. Her jaw was tight and her mind raced, searching for another way. But there was no other way. The storm had left her with no choice. A guard at the checkpoint asked for her name. When she gave it, his face changed. He looked at her carefully, then quickly picked up his radio and spoke in a hushed voice. Ilara felt her stomach tighten. She had a bad feeling about what was coming next. "Please wait here," the guard said, his tone unusually serious. 20 minutes later, someone came walking down the hill toward the checkpoint. Ilara recognized him immediately. It was Kael Draven, the Alpha King himself. He stopped in his tracks the moment he saw her, his expression frozen with surprise. His eyes moved to Ilara first, then quickly shifted to the 2 small children she was holding. He looked at Rowan, then at Wren, then back at Rowan again, as if he were trying to solve a difficult puzzle in his mind. "They're mine," Ilara said firmly, before he could ask. It wasn't a question, she made sure of that. For a moment, Kael said nothing. The wind moved gently through the trees, the only ordinary thing happening in that tense moment. Finally he spoke, his voice quieter than she remembered. "Let them through," he told the guards. "All of them." He did not apologize right away. Kings rarely do, especially not in front of others. Instead, he walked beside Ilara as she carried her children up the hill toward the packlands. He kept a respectful distance, but he stayed close enough that little Wren, unaware of the years of pain between her parents, reached out and grabbed 2 of his fingers with her tiny hand. Kael looked down at her small fingers wrapped around his, and something in his chest tightened. He did not pull away. "I was wrong," he said quietly, meant only for Ilara to hear. "I know," she replied, You had 4 years to understand that. I had 4 years to stop needing you to. Her words were calm, but they carried the weight of everything she had been through. Kael did not respond. He simply nodded, accepting the truth of what she said. They reached the pack's main house by evening. Ilara was given a guest room for herself and the twins, though it felt strange to be back in the very place she had once run from. She tucked Rowan and Wren into a soft bed and sat beside them until they fell asleep, watching their small chests rise and fall. The next morning, Kael came to see her. He knocked softly on the door, waiting patiently until she opened it. He did not ask to come in right away. He simply stood there, holding a small basket of fruit and warm bread. "For the children," he said, "and for you." Ilara took the basket, more out of politeness than trust. She still remembered the humiliation of that day in the bonding hall. A basket of fruit was not going to erase 4 years of pain. But Kael did not stop there. Over the following days, he made an effort to be present, not with grand gestures, but with small, steady actions. He learned that Rowan disliked loud noises and loved collecting beetles from the garden. He noticed that Wren was clever and liked to negotiate everything, always trying to get one more story before bedtime or one more piece of fruit after dinner. He learned that Ilara took her coffee black, without sugar or cream, because she had stopped allowing herself to want things that could easily be taken away. Slowly, without pushing too hard, Kael began to rebuild what he had broken. He did not give speeches about how sorry he was. Instead, he showed up every day. He played with the children in the garden. He listened when Ilara spoke, even when her words were sharp. He respected her space when she needed it, and he never demanded forgiveness. Weeks passed. The twins grew comfortable around him, often running to greet him whenever he arrived. Rowan showed him his beetle collection with pride, and Wren always managed to talk him into one more bedtime story. Kael listened to every word as if it were the most important thing he had ever heard. Ilara noticed the change in him, but she remained cautious. She had trusted him once, and it had cost her deeply. She was not going to make the same mistake without being certain his change was real. One evening, after the twins had fallen asleep, Kael found Ilara sitting alone on the porch, watching the stars. He sat down beside her, leaving a respectful space between them. "I know I can't undo what I did," he said. "I stood in front of everyone and rejected you. I was afraid, and I let that fear control me. It was not fair to you, and it was not fair to our children, even though I did not know about them at the time." Ilara was quiet for a moment. "Fear doesn't excuse cruelty," she said, "but I understand it can explain it." "I'm not asking you to forget," Kael continued. "I'm asking for the chance to prove, with time, that I am not that same person anymore." Ilara looked at him carefully. She saw the sincerity in his eyes, the same eyes her children had inherited. She did not answer him right away. Instead, she looked up at the stars and let the silence settle between them. "You have time," she finally said. "But time is something you have to earn, not something I owe you." Kael nodded, accepting her words without argument. Over the following months, he continued to show up, day after day. He never missed an important moment with his children, whether it was a small scrape on Rowan's knee or one of Wren's clever arguments about staying up late. He worked hard to become someone Ilara could trust again, not through empty promises, but through consistent actions. Slowly, Ilara allowed herself to soften. She began to share small parts of her day with him. She let him walk with her to the market. She allowed him to read bedtime stories to the twins. She watched him carefully every step of the way, but with each passing day, her guard lowered just a little more. One day, the pack elders approached Kael with an important matter. According to ancient pack traditions, a rejected bond could be renewed if both parties agreed, and if enough time had passed to prove genuine change. Kael listened carefully, then went to speak with Ilara about it. "I won't force this," he told her. "If you decide this is not what you want, I will respect that completely, but I wanted you to know the option exists." Ilara took her time before answering. She thought about her children, about the years of pain, and about the man who now stood before her, humbled and patient. She thought about the strength it had taken to raise her children alone, and the courage it would take to open her heart again. "I need to think about it," she said honestly. Kael respected her request, and did not push for an answer. He continued being present in the way he always had been, patient and consistent, never demanding, never rushing her decision. Weeks later, on a quiet afternoon, Ilara found Kael in the garden, sitting with Rowan and Wren, as they searched for beetles among the flowers. She watched them for a while, unnoticed, seeing the genuine joy on her children's faces and the gentle care Kael showed them. That evening, she approached him with her decision. "I am willing to try," she said. "Not because I have forgotten what happened, but because I believe people can change if they truly want to. And because our children deserve to have both parents trying, together." Kael's expression softened with relief and gratitude. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I promise to keep earning your trust, every single day." The second bonding ceremony was much smaller than the first. There were no crowds of 300 people, no lavish decorations, and no expensive dress. Instead, it was a simple gathering with a few pack elders, close friends, and the twins standing proudly at the front, holding small flowers they had picked themselves that morning. When it was time for Kael to speak the bonding words, his voice was steady and sincere. He spoke not as a king performing a duty, but as a man who understood exactly what he had almost lost, and exactly what it meant to have a second chance. Ilara listened to every word carefully. This time, she did not feel the need to smooth her dress nervously or hide her emotions. Instead, she reached out and took his hand, holding it firmly. As the ceremony ended, the small crowd cheered gently, careful not to overwhelm the children. Rowan and Wren ran forward, wrapping their arms around both their parents at once, laughing with pure joy. Ilara looked down at her children, then up at Kael, feeling a sense of peace she had not felt in a very long time. She realized that the pain of the past had not disappeared completely, but it no longer controlled her. She had built a life on her own strength, and now she was choosing, freely and carefully, to build a new chapter with the man who had once let fear guide his actions. As the sun began to set behind the hills, casting a warm golden light over the packlands, Ilara allowed herself to smile fully, without hesitation. For the first time since that painful day in the bonding hall, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, surrounded by the family she had fought so hard to protect, and the future she had chosen for herself.